So hello everyone, we have Sameer with us. Hi Sameer, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great, thanks for asking. Sameer, first things first, you are born in Australia completely, or were you raised in Australia? How is it?
So, I was born in Vijayawada, Andhra Pradesh.
Okay.
I moved to Sydney when I was 4 years old.
Oh, okay.
And I grew up in Sydney.
Right.
And then I moved to Los Angeles for 2 years.
Right.
And then I moved to Hyderabad 7 years ago.
Oh, okay. I have seen your filmography, not completely of course, but the Birthday Boy. I want to understand how's the process and how did you get into this, this particular film?
This particular film, the producer of the film, he messaged me on Instagram.
Okay.
He watched my work from a web series I did called Anya's Tutorial.
Right.
That was produced by Arka, the same people who produced Bahubali. So that was a great experience working on that web series. They saw me in that web series and they approached me to play the character of Prabhas. So after he approached me, I was like, okay, let me go check it out in the office. It's an independent film.
Right.
I went to their office, I met Whiskey, the director, and I met Bharat, the producer. Whiskey gave me a narration, and it sounded interesting because he said it was a true story that happened to him. He started the narration and he was about 15 minutes in, and I was like, two things are going to happen when I leave this room. Either one, this director is going to make a really cool film just from the way he narrated it, or within the next 20 days he's going to kill me as well. Because that's the type of energy this man possesses. He's like very, 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 very strange guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Very strange, isn't it? I'm very interested in strange people.
Yeah.
Just tell me, how strange?
Oh, well, if you kill your best friend, how strange would you be? Yeah. So, you can tell he's someone who has been through trauma and he's been through some experiences.
Right. So, of course, was he masked on?
No.
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 So you know him?
Yeah.
So you have to recognize him?
Yeah.
He can't?
No.
I guess I should have been also in the movie so that I also can recognize him.
Yeah.
My bad. But I'm sure the movie really did well. I think the reviews, the kind of reviews on that.
I don't think it did well because the producer didn't make any money back.
Right.
Maybe, critically, we did get some acclaim. So it may help me in future projects.
Right.
But on a financial standpoint, they didn't make any money.
Right.
And they're probably not going to make that money back.
Right. I really want to understand the whole part of making art when it comes to cinema and movies. Right? It's an art, and I want to understand how does it affect you? Because when you're making art, you do not expect money. You are completely into the process, but at the same time, you have to get in the money as well for you to go and step ahead and do something else as well in the future.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Making art, and then it is again dependent on making money. The whole success of it relies on making money. So how does it all affect the production house, the actors, the actresses? How does it work?
Well, to be honest, the actors and the actresses doesn't really affect them that much because you get paid for what you act.
Right.
And then post-release, you don't get any money after that film. Unless you're tied into the contract saying, I want 5% of whatever profit you make or whatever. For the producers, it's definitely tough. Making art is, literally art is public opinion every day. So, and even if you get positive public opinion, it's mostly, I can only speak on cinema because that's the field that I've grown up in. And in the field of cinema, especially in this industry, it really depends on 4 or 5 big people.
Right.
If they like your film, then they'll buy your film. If they buy your film, then the film will make money. If they don't, it's not that you won't make money, it's just very, very hard to get your money back.
So I want to understand from your point of view, how do you get into a movie, from the selection of the script to, because you just mentioned that you also get many offers from other people.
Yeah.
So I want to understand from all those offers, how do you, bring out that one character, that one piece of work that you want to work in, and from there to your method of acting, and then how everything goes.
So basically, my main thing is if any independent person or anyone comes to me with a story or they want to give me a narration, the first thing I ask them is for a script. I asked him for a script because I've done 5 years of like acting and filmmaking study before I came to this country. I've been to NIDA in Sydney. I did courses in NIDA. Then I went to New York Film Academy for a year. When I was in uni, I'm a college dropout. I went to Sydney University for a year. I was doing design computing. And when I was studying design computing, I did Introduction to Film 1 and 2. And when I was doing Introduction to Film, that was the only subject that I actually cared about and I actually liked. So from there, I went to New York Film Academy. I did a diploma in screen media. And I auditioned for Stella, Adler, the art acting studio. And then I went to LA. I was there for 2 years. And I got to do this amazing professional conservatory program. And that's where I picked up like my technique from, because when it comes to method acting, there is Stanislavski, who is like the father, and then he has 3 students, Meisner, Adler, and Strasberg. So these are like the method acting like trifecta, I guess you can kind of call it.
Well, they're very famous. Even now, I think just the art school that you got into, I think to get into artists is like something way beyond people still do it. So I also want to understand your experience there, and how did you feel when you have alumni like Follow, and then you have Nino, and how did it feel?
I mean, when I auditioned, I was like 19 years old, and I didn't think I was gonna get it.
How was your parents' reaction?
My parents were
cool,
super happy. My dad was a distributor, so
for 10 years.
For 10 years, he was like a distributor. We did 500 plus films. We did a couple films worldwide distribution. So I grew up with the love of cinema and the love of the Telugu industry. My personal art backbone is dance. I started dancing when I was 5, and I danced till 15. So I've done hundreds and hundreds of shows when it comes to dance, and it was all predominantly Telugu music and Telugu dancing. So I've always had love towards Telugu cinema. And that love is what kind of pushed me and sent me in this direction towards the art. But even my parents, ever since I was a kid, my mom has always told me, you're gonna be a star. You're gonna be a star, you're gonna be a star. And she has not stopped saying that until now, I'm 29. And so, without their support, without my mom and my dad's support, there's no way I could be in this situation, in this position where I can wake up every morning and think about what art am I going to make.
Now, there are lots of people who want to make art, right? But at the same time, what happens is sometimes you might not get the opportunities. Right? It happens. Or if crores, maybe few, come into the library, and out of those few, again, there are very limited few who get into this industry and all that. So I want to understand, what do you think is that one thing that actually makes someone go there? What is that one difference? Is it complete madness and passion? What exactly happens when a certain someone is actually there?
I think madness and passion can only get you so far. I think discipline and patience are the 2 biggest aspects. There's not many disciplined people, especially in this industry. And discipline comes from wanting to learn about techniques and wanting to learn. Because when it comes to acting is it's very subjective. Everyone has their own method, but learning technique allows you to kind of figure out what do I need to use to hit this particular feeling. At the end of the day, it's all about feeling. So how do you feel? But unfortunately, in our industry, it's more about how do you look. I don't mean how do you look I mean how do I put this expression in front of the camera? How do I put an angry face? How do I put a sad face? But that can only get you so far, because that's very surface level. If you want to hit the deeper meaning and the deeper understanding, you have to kind of first build a character. And building a character has multiple steps, multiple techniques. You figure out how they walk, how they talk, how they move in the space. Where is the energy in their space? For example, some people have their energy like here in their shoulders. Some people have their energy on their feet. They like step heavy. Once you're able to figure all that out about your character and you have the discipline to practice that, then saying the dialogue is easy. Because when you have done the repetition to be someone else, the only thing that's left is to feel what's happening in that moment. You don't have to think about how your face is looking. You don't have to think about what is the expression I'm putting. Because as humans, we don't think about that.
I mean, yeah, now that you're speaking, we don't think about it.
Of course.
So that's become as natural as...
Yeah. And that's what acting school taught me in LA. For 2 years, it wasn't about like, how do you put an expression, how do you do this. For the whole 2 years, it was all just about feeling, reacting, finding your impulses. When you have an impulse, how do you act on that impulse?
So, Sameer, one thing that I mentioned, we were talking about movies, and then, I want to understand, since we've been, in the conversation, you mentioned about Telugu cinema and the unfortunate things that happens in the industry as well, and certain things. I want to understand what are those things, and I of course, I have a glimpse of glance at it, but then I want to understand more about it.
I think personally, what I think is the most unfortunate thing about our industry is we have a very, very small amount of people who are actually educated in film. Like, when I mean educated in film, I don't mean on an experience point of view. I mean on like a proper technical point of view. Like, how many filmmakers have actually gone to film school? Or how many filmmakers kind of understand how to set up a shoot? I've been to so many shoots, and even shoots that I have done, where the way it's shot is like, okay, we're going to take a wide, we're going to take a mid, we're going to take a close, we're going to take ODS, we're going to put a track. The scene is 2 minutes. Why do you need to take so many shots? And then the moment you take all those shots and you give it to an editor, he's going to cut it whichever way he wants to cut it. So it's a waste of money at the end of the day. And going to film school and going and learning about film allows you to kind of have an understanding on like how to save money as well when you're putting on a production. Because you don't think about like, okay, I need a mid for this. If you're just going for a particular type of look in your film, you just go close, whatever it is, or OTS, this whole scene will be OTS. And if you don't need a track, then you don't have to pay for the track to come. Everything's money at the end of the day. Another thing that I think is unfortunate, and this is as an artist, payments come so late. Sometimes they don't come at all. You work and then you basically become a beggar after you work. And you have to call these managers over and over again. They won't pick up your calls. You kind of have to talk to them requestingly, saying, sir, please, can I get my payment? Please, can I get my payment? Can I get my payment? That's another thing that I feel like has to change in the Telugu industry. Because if you're not giving someone their payment, how do you expect them to, one, do the job seriously, and to like actually grow as like an artist, as an actor. But yeah, these are I think the main issues. Even most of the producers don't actually have any technical film knowledge. It's easy to go and sit down and narrate a story to someone. But it's super hard to get what's in your brain and actually show it on a screen. Because it's not just you. One person can't make a movie. You have to direct 30, 40 other people on that set to do things perfectly so you get that shot. And that's why you see so many mistakes in like movies. Continuity mistakes. You see so many like just like random scenes. It's not that the scene is random. Just the way it's shot doesn't make sense. And that's enough to like throw someone off. So I think like when it comes to like a technical educational standpoint, our industry is very, very weak. When it comes to that standpoint, and that internally like affects everything else that happens in the process. You wouldn't like go to a hospital and want to get surgery done by someone who hasn't studied MBBS, you know. But we don't treat it in the same regard in the film industry. So that's a huge difference when it comes to our industry compared to other industries. There are some amazing like industries coming up now. For example, Indonesian films.
Right.
There are some outstanding
I love their movies. You know,
Indonesian films.
I think because you mentioned this one, because I've been lately a fan of Indonesian films. I think they're very much rooted to their culture.
Yeah.
And I guess that culture itself is making them grow.
Yeah.
Their culture itself, because every movie there is a representation of culture. Right. And I think with Indian movies, I'm not talking about Telugu, but with Indian movies, I think we are getting deviated from it. You know, the cultural standpoint. I think I don't know if it's a mimicking for success or I mean, taking
it's definitely mimicking
influences. But I want to understand. But I want to understand your view since you are in the industry. I want to understand why are we not, bringing out that culture? Because every time there's a movie from India, and it's actually bringing out the culture about it. It is going to be a massive success. It has been a massive success. But then, even though we know that our culture is our biggest strength, why are we not still there yet?
See, bro. At the end of the day, it's like you have to be fearless. If you are an artist, your whole thing should be to be fearless.
Right.
But the way films in our industry are made is like they're all built around a formula based off of what they think brings audiences to the theatre. That's fine. Formulas like that work until a certain point. But then someone is going to watch the same film only a certain amount of times before they start saying like, oh, we've seen this before.
Right.
Or like, even if it's not consciously, subconsciously,
right.
people will watch it and they'll feel it's lag or they'll feel it's bored. Or like, and there's only so many lights and so many sets that you can build for people to put that subconscious mind aside and to just watch the film for what it is.
For the grandeur.
For like grandeur only works to a certain extent.
Correct.
But everything is a formula. Everything's about how can I make money back. And it takes someone very gutsy and very ballsy to be like, I'm going to make something that doesn't fall in this formula. And to be honest, it's not 100% their fault either, because lots of films try and lots of films fail. But if you want to make something that's different, you have to make sure that technically it's excellent. If it's not technically excellent, no one's going to look at it. But this is an easier way to do it. Put in 6 songs. Let's put in some like romantic elements. Put in some like aggressive elements.
Some comic.
Add in a comedy track. This all started from like Garana Mugu, which is like one of the greatest films back then to be made. It still stands excellently as a film. But Chiranjeevi came onto the screen and he was able to make people laugh, cry, and feel emotions. And he was able to make people feel all of that in one film. So, from the impact of how strong that film is, has like carried on through like commercial cinema. If you go back and you look at the films that were coming out in Telugu before, like take like Balu Garu's Pelli Pustakam for example, or you take Chankambai, or my favorite comedy film is Chitram Balare Vichitram. All these films are deeply rooted in story. And they're very, very technically strong because they didn't have the leniency back then to be able to go take after take after take after take. You have a reel, this is how much length you have on that reel, and you have to finish that film in this line.
When it comes to scarcity, actually brings the best out of you. I think that was the one.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
And of course now I understand that we have the lineage to do a better work as well. Right now, there's no limitations such. You can actually do a better one if you don't like it. You can do it, but at the same time, I think it shouldn't compromise the art. If you're being too lenient is also something. It's just like using too much water and all
yes.
this. The problem
you can afford it.
So yeah, now we'll get into the crux, right? What do you think about Prabhas?
Oh, I think from the moment I saw the movie Chhatrapati and his interval scene in Chhatrapati, like the way he was able to pull up that performance, Prabhas is one of the best actors in this country.
Right.
And I luckily had the chance to meet Prabhas because they shot this film called Mr. Perfect in Sydney.
Okay. Right.
My dad was the line producer for that film.
Right.
So I got to spend time with Prabhas, and he is the most loveliest human being you will like ever meet in your life. He calls everyone darling on set. He's so down to earth, so friendly, so nice. And you can tell that that person doesn't change from like that is the core essence of who he is.
Right. You know, I wouldn't want to draw parallels here, but if you know the words that I've just mentioned, even now the things that you mentioned, these were mentioned. These words, exact words, were mentioned for Shah Rukh Khan.
Yeah.
You know, if you go to all the interviews of his directors and producers, everyone had to say the same thing, that he's the most loveliest guy, he's the most down to earth, he just works hard and does all of that and all. And I think people who are actually getting successful in the industry, it's not about the way they're portraying the characters in the movie, but also about how they are outside. Because I think if the exact same words I'm hearing for Prabhas, and he's like, going to heights and probably reach somewhere where we're not even imagined, somewhere unlock something out of there. So I think it's really important for someone to have that, on camera, off camera persona. And I guess Shah Rukh Khan has cracked it like long back, and now Prabhas is cracking. Like, how old is he? Like 40, 45?
I think around there somewhere.
Yeah. And I think Shah Rukh Khan has done it like way beyond, in his like late 30s. No, in his early 30s. He started and he was already the charmer. And I think now Prabhas is somewhere there, where he is the nicest guy now. And it's not like he wants to be, it's not like he's just trying to be. It's not like that. They're like natural.
It's just him.
Right, it's just him, and unapologetic him, and Shah Rukh. And I believe that maybe, down the line, I think he'd be the pan-India star.
I think he is already.
He's already right.
If you take Bahubali 1, 2 and Kalki, which recently released.
Right. How did you like Kalki? What happened?
I like Kalki.
Okay.
I think, my personal opinion, the first half is a little slow, but it's necessary to do that world building.
Right, of course.
We can take off from the second half.
Right.
And then I think K2 is going to be spectacular.
Right.
Like Nagashwin is luckily someone so technically strong. And he's like one of the few directors we have.
No, I'll just be very honest here. Because Nag Ashwin, the vision of his, he has brought mythology and the contemporary world, and he just made it not contemporary, it's just futuristic world. Right. I think if we can match the essence of Mahabharata's characters, because he's taking inspirations, and there are characters, right? So even if 10% of what Karna was in Mahabharata, if he can pull that off in this movie, I think there's no stoppage to the movie.
100%. And I think Prabhas is the perfect person to play that character.
Right. And it also suits his persona as 100%. Well, because Karna's persona was like that. He was like Dana Veera Surya Karna. So it's like Dan Veer, and he's like giving person, and he always gotten betrayed and all of that. I'm really excited to see Kalki 2, and I guess with Kalki 2, Telugu cinema in India is going to see another.
I hope so. I hope Kalki 2 goes international.
Right. No, it will. I'm sure it will. And the very few movies, I'm also movie chung. I'm talking a lot about movies, but then the only actors that have actually scored 1,000 crores at the box office without sequels was Shah Rukh Khan before, and now it's Prabhas with Kalki, because it was not a Rajamouli movie, and it was not a sequel as well. So I'm just very excited. I really want to see what's in for the movie, but as an audience, I think it's winning. It's a win for me. To be in the industry or in the times where movies are flourishing, and there are lots of movies coming in, and I just want to know and see what all ideas can we bring in, because I believe India is such a massive cultural country, and we did not yet hit the right chords lots to show, and I guess people keep experimenting, actors like you, bringing in new scripts and giving life to new characters. Because I personally like Birthday Boy, and I'd also feel that it's very unfortunate that something like that has happened. But at the same time, I enjoyed the movie. Right, I personally enjoyed. I don't know, what are the reviews. Of course, people would have opinions, but I personally enjoyed. And I think this is the movie after which I thought I'd call you. And luckily, what happened the day after I watched this movie, I saw you and one of our mutuals. And I was like, oh, he's there. Let me try. Maybe I'd get a better chance at replying. So that happened. But then thank you again. You're here and we're talking, and there are lots of
thank you for
mishaps. So now we'll get into your personal life.
Sure.
Right. Enough of professional. I'll talk about it at the end, maybe, perhaps. I want to understand, how were you as a kid?
How was I? Super shy. Super shy. I think my stage fear kind of kicked in because the first time I was on stage, I was 5 years old.
Okay.
And I did a dance to the song Atakawala Patakawala from Annaya.
Really?
Yeah.
I have a best friend of mine. Whenever we go on a trip, oh my God, this song is always there. This song is always there.
It's an awesome song.
It was a great chart buster. I just wish it gets released. If at all it did now, it would have been.
Even Annaya is a great film.
Right.
Story-oriented film.
Right.
So I think I was very, very scared to go on stage. I've always been a super shy kid, but I feel like when I was a kid, I was very intrigued and interested in learning things, or like, what is this about, or how can I like dance for me was kind of like a puzzle. When I was a kid, I would see Chiranjeevi garu do the step, and then I would like practice it. But I never practiced with a mirror in front of me. I used to only practice with that screen in front of me. So it's actually quite funny because when you watch me dance, I do all the steps in reverse. Like all the steps that are supposed to be going to the right, I'm doing them to the left. And that's because like I'm watching the TV while I'm like practicing. Then I got on stage and I danced, and I was like 5 years old, and that like blew people's mind. And I kind of got mobbed in this like Telugu association function. And like people were pinching my cheeks, and they were like, and I was just like scared. I was just like, well, what is going on? And that shyness maintained until I was like 15. So I'd go on stage, I'd dance, and then ghost, gone. You will not be able to like see me outside. I would just run to the back, or I'll run to my mom, and I would like either sit behind her, someone says, I'll be like, thank you. And then I would just try and like, because I was, I was a little scared of people. But I would say my like confidence and stuff came out when I started doing drama. It was about 15 when I picked up drama in high school as one of my electives. And during that time, I think getting the like feedback and the recognition from your peers and from your teachers, it started to instill a confidence in me, saying that I am good. Like I can do this. Like I'm good. Even though your parents kind of tell you, like you don't understand if you're actually good or not until you kind of get that recognition from people you look up to. So like, just say when I was in drama, like you would look up to the drama teacher, and if they're praising your work, that starts instilling confidence in you.
You mentioned that you were a college dropout, so I want to know that. Why did you exactly thought that it would be a great idea to drop out of college, or is it just because Mark Zuckerberg was also dropped out?
No. When I was in high school, in the end of my high school, I was kind of stuck in like the mentality of you have to go to uni. And based off that, when I always wanted to go to Sydney University because I played cricket for them from 16 till 19. I played 3 seasons of cricket with Sydney University. And that was so I would finish school, I'll catch 2 buses, go to the city with my kit, go to training, and walking through the campus with my kit, going to training, the university is beautiful.
He said kit, it's not kid. They're like...
No, kit, yeah.
He's not married yet.
No, I'm not. So just seeing like the structures and stuff around me, I was like, damn, I want to go to uni here.
Right.
So I got in, I was very happy, and I started doing the course, and then I would just catch myself not being interested in any of it.
Right.
Like, the course was design computing, so it's taking a structure from an architect and building it on the computer as like a 3D model,
Right.
doing the designs inside, what is the, what are the textures of the wall going to be,
Right.
like how are we supposed to place furniture and stuff around this room, but building the model.
Okay.
But I just didn't have any interest in that. My interest was always films. It was always like all the subjects that I did extremely well in school was like photography, drama, English. Like these were my 3 strongest subjects. Or any subject that is like essay oriented.
Right.
Like ancient history, I was very good at. Religion, we had as a topic. I was very good at that. So it got to a point where, like, I just couldn't even like sleep at night sometimes, because I was just like, I'm gonna go to uni again, and I have to do this. And there was like a theater very close to my uni. So I would catch myself just skipping class, watching whatever random English movie was out, and I'll just go sit there, and then I'll get on the bus and I'll go back home. Like I wouldn't even go to classes.
Right.
So one day I was just like, why am I doing this? Let me just go to film school. So I typed up film school, and then the first one that came out was New York Film Academy, because they're the most commercial film school.
Right. Right.
Like if you type in film school, that's the first thing that'll pop up on Google.
Right.
And they were opening a new branch in Sydney that year.
Okay.
So I submitted, and they were like, yeah, come join our program, Diploma in Screen Media. And once I got in, I had to wait for 5 months until the course started. So during this break in those 5 months, I went to a couple of workshops at NIDA. NIDA is the National Institute of Dramatic Arts, and that is considered like the best acting school in Australia.
Right.
So getting to do these like workshops, like 10-day workshop, and like I did a 2-week workshop. So that kind of brought me into like being in front of the camera for the first time and getting direction and like doing all these things that like I knew on like I knew in like a theory scale, but like practically doing these things with like great teachers who are there to guide you.
Right.
And like working with other individuals who are not kids.
Right.
Like these individuals are adults.
Right.
And I'm in this atmosphere with adults. And that was a great like jump off point for me to go into New York Film Academy. And then once I got into New York Film Academy, Shakespeare was something that really, really intrigued me. Speaking a different language, talking in iambic pentameter, like once you kind of figure out the language of Shakespeare, you understand that saying this dialogue in a certain type of way, regardless of if the audience knows exactly what you're saying or not, they'll get like 100% of the context.
Right.
And I met this amazing teacher in New York Film Academy. Her name is Clara Voda. She's a Romanian actress. And she was the first person to get me into method acting.
Okay.
I was 18 when I was at New York Film Academy. And she was the first person I was 19. She was the first person to say, there's more to learn.
Right.
And she was like, this school is coming, Adler is coming to Sydney. They do auditions in Sydney, London, all over America. They're doing auditions in Sydney, you have to go. And she's like, you have to go.
Right.
And I didn't know anything about Adler, I didn't know anything about method. She started introducing me to plays, Chekhov. She started introducing me to Chekhov plays. So
What a check.
Chekhov is this Russian writer.
Okay.
And his plays are beautiful plays based on tragedy, emotions,
Okay.
like human feeling, human raw emotions. Plays like The Seagull is a Chekhov play that is like a beautiful play. And they're tragedies. Ivanov is like another one, they're tragedies. These are the plays that they would put on like the Russian theater company to show method acting.
Right.
Like it's kind of like synonymous almost with the birth of method acting, because the writing has to match your emotions.
Right.
And Chekhov plays like are all like internal feelings. So although the dialogue might say something,
Right.
what is the feeling that's like inside
Right.
while doing this?
Right.
So none of his plays are surface level. They're all very like in-depth, like character-based stories. So getting to work with her, and she's like, go audition. And then I went, I did my audition. I did a Shakespeare play, King Lear. Edmund was the character.
Can you articulate some lines? I really want to see, the articulation of.
Thou nature art my goddess, to thy law my services are bound. Wherefore shall I stand in the plague of customs to permit the curiosity of nations to deprive me? For I am some 12 or 14 moonshines lag of a brother. Why bastard, wherefore base? Are my dimensions not as compact, my mind as generous, and my shape as true as honest madam's issue? Why brand they us with base? Baseness, bastardy, base. Base, who in the lusty stealth of nature take more composition than doth within a dull, tired, stale bed go to the creating of a whole tribe of fops, got tween asleep and wake? Well then, legitimate Edgar, I must have your land. Our father's love is for the bastard Edmund as to the legitimate. Fine word, legitimate. Well, my legitimate, if this letter speed and my invention thrive, Edmund the base shall top the legitimate. I grow, I prosper. Now gods, stand up for bastards. So this is just the text that
I'm like, oh my god, okay, this is how things work. Okay, I'm in now. I'm doing serious podcasting now. Okay, no, but how do you remember the lines? Because this has been a question to me, Of course, Shakespeare's, the plays that he has, one of the toughest, right? And then the articulation, the modulation, your voice, and then your acting, your eyes has to speak the truth.
Yes.
How?
It's all repetition, bro. It's all practice. I feel like going to film school, learning, it's all muscle memory at the end of the day. Like picking up a script and reading the dialogues. Everyone has a technique. I have a technique on how this monologue, like I know every credible actor has a monologue that like they can just like pick out of their pocket and they can do it. Right. For me, this one was that piece.
Okay.
So yeah, as long as it just becomes muscle memory after a while.
Right.
Like even now, if I get a script, it'll probably take me like 30 minutes to like learn the lines. But learning the lines is surface.
Right, of course. Of course. Right.
But that is a skill or an art form that like you pick up with like repetition. The ability to retain dialogues and the ability to
Right. Okay. So she has introduced, your mentor has introduced to the writer, and then
I went. I did the audition. I did the Shakespeare audition, and the headmaster who was there taking the audition, his name is Johnny. And I sat down and I had like an interview with him, and I did another piece, which is like some random monologue that was terrible. Like I knew for a fact it was terrible. And then he told me that to his face. He was like, your Shakespeare piece was very strong. The other monologue needs a lot of work. And then he talked to me for a while. He like heard about my story and why I wanted to go there and my journey. And then I just left, and I remember leaving. And as I was leaving, I looked to my left, and there was like 4 other people from my school there.
Okay.
And I'm just like, okay, all the best. And I left. I got home, 6 months, nothing. Silence. So I was like, I'm probably not going to hear back from these people. One day I go into acting school, because I was at NIFA during that time. And was it 6 months? It was like 3-4 months. And when I went into acting school, everyone's like, the Adler emails have come out. The Adler emails have come out.
All right.
And then they were like, a couple of the students got into the summer program. So the summer program is like a 3-month program. It's an introduction into the professional conservatory 2-year program.
All right.
So a couple of the students were like, I got into the summer program. Did you check your emails? And I was like, no, I didn't check any emails. And then I opened up my Gmail and then I clicked it. And then when I clicked it, it's funny because in that email, the opening sentence, it's kind of like, oh, thank you so much for coming and auditioning for a thing. So like when I was reading it, I was like, they're going to tell me I didn't get in.
Right.
So then I was reading it and then it got to a point and then they're like, we would like to invite you to attend our 2-year professional conservatory program. And then for a second, I was just like shocked. And then I turned and I told my friends that like I got into the 2-year professional conservatory. And they were like, ecstatic.
Right.
Some of them.
Right.
Some of them were like...
No, he's just being very honest.
Yeah.
Right.
Some of them were like, how did you get in?
Right.
Kind of like vibe. But then I went to Clara and I was like, I got in and she was like, awesome, you're going to kill it. Go. Try your best. Right. I still remember, I got on a flight, landed in LA, and after I got in, I thought I was top shit. Like, I thought that, okay, I am like... the next big thing. I am 20 years old and I just got into one of the best programs in the world.
Right.
And I'm top shit. And I was like, I'm going to do a piece that I've never done before because the first day when you join that program, you're in front of alumni and teachers and you go and you do a monologue.
Right.
And you showcase your work.
Right.
I decided to, although I had at least 5-6 monologues that I've done 10, 15 times.
Right.
Work that I have like worked with other teachers where they've fine-tuned it and that it's like ready to go. I decided to learn a monologue, a fresh one. And I decided to learn a monologue from the Seagull, which is like the most like, it's like such an iconic one now. I don't remember that one. It's like the most, like one of the most iconic monologues. And then I went and I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for my turn. And when you move to a new country, I got there a week in advance, 5 days in advance. I was jet lagged for 3 of those days. I'm trying to find a place to live. I'm trying to find a car. I'm trying to get insurance. I'm trying to get my phone together. I'm trying to like organize my life so I can live near the studio before my classes take off.
Right.
And I'm trying to learn these dialogues and I'm trying to do things like on the fly, on the move. So I get there, I go, I think third last. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching all the other kids, and well, they're not kids, everyone aged from 18 to, I think the oldest was 32 or something in the program. And I'm seeing these actors come out and just absolutely flooring their monologues, just doing beautiful pieces. Everyone has their own like individuality, and you totally kind of like understand why these people were selected.
Right.
Then it's my turn, I get up, I start my monologue, about 5 lines in, blank. I don't remember a single dialogue.
Right.
And I'm looking around, headmaster, there's like all the teachers I'm about to work with, past alumni sitting up there. Botch the entire, like, just like...
Were you the only one who botched it up, or did anyone else also do that?
I was the only one who botched it so obviously.
Oh, okay.
Like, other people pick texts that like... It's easy
like improv,
to improv 2 or 3 lines.
Right.
You can't improv Chekhov. You can't improv the Seagull.
Right.
Everyone knows that in that room. Everyone knows every word of that monologue except me. So I remember that
like
day.
People are like,
they were just looking like I remember one of the teachers was looking at me like this. He was like, okay, Seagull, okay, cool, go. Come on, say it.
Right.
But that was honestly one of the best things to happen to me as an actor.
I get it.
Because from that point, from that day, I had a point to prove.
Right.
To everyone in that room, to all my peers, because everyone like threw me out. Everyone thought I was trash.
Right.
And I told myself that day, I am never stepping foot onto this stage again without being 150% prepared.
Wow.
And from there, it took me like 2 scene study classes to like make people in my class believe in me.
Right.
Like the first scene I did well, but it was still a little shaky. I was prepared, but the whole scene in total didn't feel like, as an actor, you always get that feeling when you do something.
Right.
When you move people, you know.
Right. You get it. You understand.
You know that you came in and you absolutely gave it your 100%.
The room itself reacts in a different way.
And the energy in the room picks up. Everyone's like focused, and it was a play called The Lover by Mamet. Mm-hmm. And I was playing a character much older than what I was. And with my scene partner, we were kind of doing the scene, and she was a very experienced actor at that point. I think she was like 26, 27. Mm-hmm. She's done a bunch of professional work in Italy. Lovely person. And during that like whole rehearsal process and everything, she was kind of taking charge of everything that was going on, because people were still under the impression that like I'm raw, which I am. Right. But that was the first time when I trusted my impulse and I acted on it. Mm-hmm. So from that moment on, like I think I knew self-confidence, like my self-confidence, like
people are looking at you again.
Went through the roof, and people were like, oh, okay.
Right.
So, and it's great because that led me to continue to put on great work, consistently put on good work, and get to a point where in our final showcase, I got to play a character that is like amazing. Like I'm in the whole play. Not everyone gets that opportunity.
Right.
We did The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. It is the play that we put on as our final play. And I played a character that was like 40 years old, as like a 20-year-old.
Right.
But the fact that they trusted me in that college to do that character because of the emotional weight behind that character, I think like it just directly correlates with the work leading up to that moment. And that was a great moment because my parents had never seen me like they saw me on a stage once.
Right.
But that was the first time my parents got to come and sit in this in this theater and watch their son act and emote.
Right. Were you nervous by any chance? Like your parents were there. How was the feeling?
Oh, it was awesome. I am not nervous at that point.
Right.
Because I feel like at a young age, I got rid of that. Like being nervous
on the stage.
I think like being nervous was from 5 to 15.
Right.
And then after that, I think a big inspiration for me is my dad when it comes to that.
Right.
Because my dad approaches anything fearlessly. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, if this is the decision I make, I'm going to approach it fearlessly.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Right.
People are going to say, what, I screw up a few lines here and there, or like, I mess it up. What happens if you mess it up? You just learn and you try again. And when you try again, you're going to be better.
Right.
But because luckily I was like raised with the ideology of discipline and repetition, by the time I hit the stage, I was ready. I was always ready. Right. Especially after that day, the first day, when I came onto the stage and I was like, literally, and then...
Right, you can see the difference.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I feel like I personally could tell the difference too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I have known people who work in plays, and of course, working in movies and working in plays, theaters, they're different things. Yeah. I want to understand how different are they and what things that I've learned there are working here.
So, in plays, theater is very physical. When I mean physical, and theater is all about projection.
Right.
It's about your voice.
Right.
So, even if someone is sitting in the 60th row, if you're saying a dialogue and you're whispering it, you have to project in that whisper. And you have to be more grand with your movements.
Right.
Because it's a big space.
Right.
Camera is all about eyes. Camera is completely and solely about eyes. Because you are now like confided to a small space.
Right.
And any small movement you do in the camera, it's going to get picked up.
Right.
That's why like it's two different art forms. Theater and acting for film are two different art forms.
Right.
Theater is more about your body language. It's about how you present yourself. It's about how you project. And film is, I would say like a sentence that sums it up is, theater is eccentric. It's external.
Right.
Film is like, I don't know the right word. internal. So film is about what's going on in here,
Right.
not about like what's going on here.
Right. Right.
So it's definitely two different art forms.
Right.
What theater helps you in film, in my opinion, is theater helps you build that discipline. So when you get in front of a camera, you can understand that like you need to know your lines, you need to know this, you need to know that. Because in theater, there's no take two.
Right.
Everything is one take.
Right.
And if you mess up in theater, there's nothing more embarrassing than calling for line in the middle of your performance. Saying line is the most embarrassing thing
Right.
for an actor. It happens. It happened even in our school.
Right. Right.
But in film, you have that leniency.
Right.
But just because you have that leniency, you shouldn't use it.
Right.
And that's what theater kind of instills.
Right.
That's why theater actors are so revered in films, because it's not that they are going to act better in front of the camera, because I've met lots of theater people who bring their theater habits onto the screen.
Right.
And you can tell it's very distracting. It's very distracting because the camera is stillness.
Right.
It's all about stillness.
Right. Right.
Even in chaotic movement, you have to be still.
Right.
And all the best actors like have that stillness. Even if you see like De Niro or Brando,
Right. Right.
they're able to say a dialogue and just do nothing.
Right, right. No, I love De Niro. I think this is one movie that I've seen his Meet the Parents, and once I think that was my introduction to De Niro, and once that was done, I was like on what was that word? What's that word? On a binge watching, De Niro movie. I just love that guy.
Yeah.
The kind of conviction he brings.
Yes.
To the roles. I mean, he just knows that this character, this is the character I'm playing, and I am the character.
That's it.
It's not like I am playing this character. It's like I am the character. It's like very different, and I really love this work. And it just sometimes makes me sad that he's getting older. Right? I think in Joker he was like, And like, oh my God, I don't get old. I want to see the movies, all of that. But great, and I think the best part is you for sure know what would work for theater and what would not work for the movies, right? You know the difference of it, and I guess since I've mentioned that there are other people that I've seen who brings their nuances of theater into camera, and then it doesn't work that way, and it's very distracting as well. I second that, and the best part about you is you know the difference. It's not that you would need more years to actually figure that out so that you can come into the zone and act and all of that finally.
I think it's just based off of just learning. I was lucky enough to do a camera course before I went and did theater.
Right.
So by the time I was doing theater, I kind of already understood the sensibilities of what it means to be in front of a camera. And when I was a kid, we used to make YouTube videos. And I still remember when I was a kid with my friends, we did like a parody of Thrift Shop. Macklemore's Thrift Shop.
Right, I know. Yeah.
And we called it Curry Shop. And we did this like parody where
is it still on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Please send it to me. I want to see what have you made, like what parody? Right.
So this was like before I went to film school and everything. This was when I was in uni, dreaming about films.
Right.
So we would just kind of like think what's funny back then, and then we thought it was like a funny idea to make like an Indian parody version of Thrift Shop.
Right.
And then we just made it, and then we just released it onto YouTube, and I think it got I think it's now sitting on like 150k views or something.
Okay.
And for us, that was like a huge thing when it got to like 100k views. We were like, that's crazy. We just raw channel, no other videos on the channel, and we just dropped like this this piece, and so even from like then. Watching myself on the I never watch playbacks. Like when I'm on a set, I never watch a playback.
Okay.
Because that's the one thing that Ron Burris taught me. Ron Burris, and there's another teacher, Philip, amazing teacher. And when you're in class and you act something, you can't even ask to go see the playback. They'll be like, it's not your job.
Right.
That's the director's job.
Right.
Here. Everyone goes. First thing they do after doing a take, they go and they do their playbacks. And they're like, okay. And then they go and they fix it. That's their technique. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Everyone has their own technique.
The movies that have worked now, you did not?
I have never seen a playback.
Okay.
The only time I see playback,
your director?
I just don't want to.
Okay.
Because if I go watch a playback,
like let's say there's some directors like, hey, you know what, this is something, just come.
Oh no, lots of directors have asked me to come watch the playback. I say no.
Okay.
Because the only time I'll watch a playback is for like placement in a camera. So just say it's a wide,
right,
and I have to like walk and I have to give a glass.
Okay.
Or like I have to turn and I have to look a certain direction, and I'm not able to hit that mark.
Right.
Then I'll watch the playback to get an understanding of the frame.
Right. Understood.
But even before the cameraman like sets it up, if I'm working on a really big film or like a really big set, then I can't ask the cameraman to like show me the frame.
Right.
But if it's like a film where I'm playing the lead, or like if it's like a film where first thing I'll do is I'll ask the cameraman, I'm like, how much space do I have to play?
Right.
Where does my frame end?
Right.
Like, okay, is it a close? Cool. If it's this, I can only move so much.
Right.
If it's this, then I have the scope to move a little bit.
Right.
But these are things that like film school teaches you.
Right.
Just ask. Like, I know that unfortunately in our industry, because everything is like based off a hierarchy, and it's like, oh, you can't ask like questions or like.
Really?
You can, but this is how people feel.
Okay.
Like people feel scared to ask. I don't. I just ask.
Of course.
Because I'm not from here. I don't care.
Of course.
So like I'll just ask. Like in the DOP, I'll just be like, is it a close? Is it a wide?
Right.
Can you just tell me like how tight it is so I know how much I have to? If it's a close,
right,
my acting details are going to be very minute because I understand that the camera is so close to your face that if you move too much, then like it's going to distract from actually what you need to like see, like what you want to show.
Correct. You know, since you've mentioned the hierarchy, I want to get into that. I think we have already spoken, but I just want to understand, why do you think people are scared to ask, like actors or actors? Is it because the opportunity is very few and you just have to be very lucky to get the opportunity? Is that how it works?
Yes, opportunities are very few, and you do have to be very lucky to ask. But I feel like a lot of artists out here feel insecure about their ability. So through that insecurity comes fear.
Right.
So they don't want to even question like a director or question a DOP. It's not a negative question.
Right.
You know? At the end of the day, like it's your job to kind of know what you're doing. So a lot of people are like, no, don't, like they'll tell you.
Right.
If not, just like do it.
Right.
But all that causes is like a delay. Because like they don't know that it's like an extreme close.
Correct.
Or like if you don't know it's an extreme close, then like how are you supposed to stay inside the frame on your turn?
Right.
Like you need to know these things. It's like basic like basic knowledge on like what's going on around you. It's just about being self-aware on a set. Ask them where your look is. Like the sets are chaotic, they're busy, people have a million things to do. Like you can't expect, especially in our industry, you can't expect people to just tell you everything. Because one person's running around doing this, he's doing that, the director's talking with the DOP or he's talking with the fight master. Like they don't have time to like come and explain to you properly like, okay, this is your look, this is there, this is that. They do most of the time.
Right.
But sometimes when you're like on the rush, like it's just simple, just ask. Just be like, where's my look?
Right.
And they'll tell you.
Right.
And then it's done. It takes like 10 seconds.
Right. You know, since we have spoke about this, I want to ask this question. What are the 3 things that you love about the Telugu film industry, especially, and what are the 3 things that you dislike about it?
Things I love about the Telugu industry is we have passion.
Yeah.
We have the most passionate people. The technicians, our musicians, world-class musicians.
Right.
The people, our cameramen, very, very, very technically strong.
Right.
And and another thing that I like about the Telugu industry is I like the fan base.
Oh yeah.
Because of their like unwilling and undying like love.
Right.
Not unwilling, undying love on the industry.
Right.
Like we have the best fan base on earth.
Right.
These are my 3 most favorite things about the Telugu industry.
The fan base. Do you think it's going to die one day? Like, would the audience of Telugu industry or the audience of Telugu cinema would they hit that saturation?
I don't think it's ever going to die.
But is it going to go decline? Like, how do you think would it be for the next 5 years or 10 years?
See, I think like one thing that's definitely happening in our industry is big stars don't make as many films anymore. Because they're working on bigger productions,
right,
bigger things.
Right.
So when it means bigger things take more time.
Right.
So the industry is getting starved of like big stars.
Right.
Like, it's very rare these days to go to a theater and watch a Ram Charan film. It'll take 2 years, 3 years.
Right.
Or even like a Junior NTR film. Like, so is the fan base going to decline? I don't think so.
Right.
Because I think
you don't get to see
cinema is the strongest emotion in Telugu states.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And it's so strong that it can like, and cinema is also synonymous with like politics.
Right.
They're both hand in hand, and these two are two strongest emotions in our states.
Right. Right.
So cinema will never die, and politics will never change.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So these are the things that you like. Now we'll get into the things that you dislike.
Things that I dislike.
And be aware people are going to watch it. So.
Yeah, that's fine. I dislike the treatment of artists on our sets. I dislike the scenes in films objectifying women, and I dislike the fact that we have such a small amount of technically knowledged people in our industry.
Thanks for letting me know about the second point that you dislike about the industry. I have really, of course, there are lots of backlashes sometimes. These days, everything's on social media. There are lots of backlashes going on. And every time there's a certain backlash, it takes me back to a movie. And I just think to myself, and I talk to myself like, oh, you were quiet when this was going on.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about, something or someone who's not that powerful enough. And I really threatens the whole art because of the wrong criticism as well, or the selective criticism that you might have. And selective criticism, it's not in a good way. I'm talking about what kind of people you're criticizing and what kind of people you're not. Because I feel the women in Telugu industry, not in just Telugu industry, I think in down south, apart from Malayalam, Malayalis movie, Kerala, they show women just like for the sake of glamour. Right, they're just there. The hero comes, he gets angry, he hits a woman, and that's something clap-worthy or slap-worthy because a woman, she was doing something. Let's say a Telugu heroine was in the movie, she's an actress and she's doing something here and there, and a hero can come slap in the movie, right? And people appreciate yes, something right. And there are other ways to deal with it as well. Technically speaking, and of course, morally, ethically speaking, there are other ways of dealing with women. I've seen certain movies of, I don't know, I might get trouble if I take names, but then I've seen heroes, the A-listers as well. In their movies, they do hit women, right? They abuse women as well, right? And it's accepted. I want to understand, why is it that in Telugu industry this happens and people do not name call it, or they don't catch it, or they don't hold the collar and ask the heroes or the directors or the producers to be ethically right. But then it happens in Bollywood, if you can see. Like Bollywood, anything they do, if it's morally wrong, if it's ethically wrong, they're called out. But why doesn't it happen in Telugu industry?
Because you know that it's wrong.
Right.
I know that it's wrong.
Right.
Because we have gone through certain things in life.
Certain awareness.
And we have an awareness on like what is right and what is wrong.
Right.
I think that in the culture itself, it is in a point where it's slowly changing more.
Right.
But we haven't hit that point in our culture yet to kind of identify that like this is 100% definitely wrong.
Right.
It's like, it's wrong, but it's right because of this.
Right.
Because of X, Y, Z.
Right. Because she has done something.
Exactly.
I mean, this validation they give their
Yes.
own.
But then people need to, and they soon will understand that like putting your hands on a woman is wrong. Period.
Right.
That's it.
This inference it came from the movie Animal because there are certain scenes which was not at all accepted. There were lots of criticism, but down south there was no criticism for that.
Yeah.
There were like zero noise.
Yeah.
They loved the movie. I mean, I also love the movie. I mean, as per the movie, as per the art, as per the characterization of those particular characters, I understand why and what all. But then it was not at all criticized in South India. Even though even the way Arjun Reddy was criticized, Animal was not criticized as much as Arjun Reddy was. In the South. But then in North it was criticized heavily.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So if there's something happens, people are on Twitter, on X. Now and they're just tweeting and they're talking about it, but then here there's no noise at all, and your favorite A-listers are doing it. Unfortunately my favorite heroes are doing it, and it's never on the news. It's like very chill here.
Yeah, I think like the scenes and stuff that happen, they all kind of get tossed under the rug now, but I think they all
I think
come out.
now it would get sensitive. I mean, now people would get sensitive.
I feel like slowly people are like starting to understand it more. But it's what happens.
Right.
So like in the director's eyes, they're like, I'm not showing anything that's not happening.
Right.
Like this is a part of daily life.
Wow.
This is a part of our culture. It's a part of daily life.
Right.
So like if it's happening outside and they show it in a film, like obviously the guy writing the film is a man, the guy producing the film is a man, the one doing the scene is a man.
Right.
So like they obviously will have an ideology that's very similar to like what's been happening.
Right.
It's not happening in their own lives,
Right.
but they know that like this is what's happening in like states. This is what's happening. A director puts a scene where he shows like a waist, and then he's like, okay, check this waist out.
Right. Right. Get it.
In a film, you can see it. In real life, if a female is wearing something like that on the street, you don't think 650 million men are going to be staring at her?
Right.
They're all going to be doing exactly what that camera's doing in the film. So the ideology is the same.
Right.
It hasn't like evolved or it hasn't changed.
Do you think it's going to?
I think it's tough, bro. It's tough to say if it's going to change or not.
Right.
I don't know. I think as long as in our culture we view women as inferior, it's not going to change.
Right.
So it's more of a cultural thing, and that's what comes back and ties up into the film. So I hope it changes. I know me as a filmmaker, I'm never going to make a scene like objectifying a woman for no reason apart from just objectifying her.
Right.
But that's because my culture is different. I'm Australian. I grew up in Australia.
Right.
And like, if we make scenes like that there are scenes like that in Hollywood too.
Right.
Look at Transformers,
Right.
Right. There are scenes like that in every commercial box office making films.
Right.
But it's just a bit.
Right.
And I think it's more dangerous in our culture because
People
it
take
fuels
that as
people
role model. Yeah.
to like use that as inspiration.
Right.
And it's okay to do, I'm not saying it's okay to do that in Hollywood, but they can get away with it because in countries like America or like Australia, like, I'm not saying all crime, but most crime, you have to answer for it.
Right.
Like, you are held accountable for your crimes.
Right.
Here, the population is so high that it's so hard to hold everyone accountable for their actions.
Right.
So a lot of it gets slipped under the rug.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. So we had this amazing conversation and I'm really loving the conversation. I think we'll go on if we continue. We have been doing it for like 3 hours now. It's almost 6
damn.
now.
Yeah.
So let's not get carried away, and I definitely want to have you on my podcast more.
Yeah.
But before we end, there's this very important question that I asked to our guests. it's about their perspective on life.
Yeah.
You've lived for 29 years, and I'm sure all these graceful years has something or the other to teach you about life. So, what do you think life is all about?
Life is about learning, failing, trying again, failing better,
Right.
and
Learning
just learning.
better.
That's it, bro. Life's about learning.
Right.
You should always. My ideology on life is always learn, and if you do something, you fail. That's all right. Dust yourself off. Get back up. Keep learning.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful. Right. So before we leave, what we do is I try to understand a small thing from you. That's what's in for you from now on. So what would be your future like from here on? What are the kind of projects that you would want to work, and how do you want to establish yourself in the industry?
My future is I'm going to go make an independent film next year.
Okay. All right. Have you started working on it?
Yeah, I've worked on the script. I'm going through looking at productions. But I want to make an English film that is Telugu, but it's an English film.
Right. So the language is English.
The language is Telugu English, but the characters are Telugu people, but it's an English film.
Understand.
And I want to make a film for film festivals. I think that's the route that I want to take.
Oh wow.
Yeah. My career in this industry, I don't know.
All right.
I don't know. I mean, I've been here for 7 years. I've tried. I feel like I do have a lot to offer for this industry. But if it's not appreciated or if it's not going to be taken, then I think it's better that I go back home and I make some art
Right.
where I can express myself fully.
Right.
So that's the plan.
All right. Well, all the best for that, and
Thank you.
very good luck, of course. But then what we'll do is, before we wrap up, we play a small game with our guests.
Sure.
So what we do is, we play a small small game, a dare game. A very small game, just like a staring game. So you'll have to look into my eyes. I'll have to look into whoever blinks first.
Okay.
He'll lose the game.
Okay.
But then the point is, whoever loses,
Yeah.
they have to perform a philanthropic debt.
Okay.
Right. So it can be feeding underprivileged children or volunteering your time at a government school or any school for that matter.
Yeah.
So it's basically a philanthropy there they'll have to perform, whoever loses. So let's say I lose, then
Yeah.
you'll have to accompany me. I'll be doing the dare, but you'll be
Okay.
there watching if I'm doing it or not. All right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
How many times have you done this before?
I've done.
Oh, okay, crazy.
Yeah,
And how many times have you won?
Yeah. It's I think
It's like
it's like
even?
50-50. Yes, it's even
Cool.
not that great. All right, so we'll start the game. You
Sure.
look into me, I'll look into your eyes, and then we'll
Sure.
see. All right. Okay, we'll start. 3, 2, 1. Oh, I forgot you're an actor. So, do you think you have an edge?
Oh.
Okay. Shashi, dekh theek se. Please blink. Oh my God, you're going to blink. You're teary. Come on, please, 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 please. Okay. Okay.
I'll start crying, bro.
I know, right? But I really thought you have an edge.
No, I know. But it's okay. I love helping.
Okay, so cool. So what we'll do is the 4 dares written. You'll have to choose from number 1 to 4, whichever
Sure.
dare comes in. We'll have to perform it together.
Sure.
All right?
Sure.
Okay, go on.
Do I just say a number?
Yeah, the number 1 to 4, any number.
3.
Okay, it says donate food to underprivileged children or adults. All right?
Cool.